Hello, hello, everybody. It's going to be a great day. Want to know why? Because we are going to learn all about energy today. And you know, when you know better, you get better. And we're going to do this all together because we're better together. First, we're going to start with our quote of the day. Emotions are energies showing up to guide us. That's by Jean McKelvey. Heal Squad, you're in for a really cool conversation today with my very dear friend, John Amaral. We're going to talk all about energy, being connected and disconnected, how to reconnect with your body, how to trust the things your senses are telling you, and so much more. But before we get into that, friends, Macy's.com/Heal Squad. If you have not visited our curated Macy's picks yet, I hand select everything. And we have everything there from gifts for the family, things for your home, fashion, of course, the most important. And as you know, they're a big supporter of the show. So anything you buy through that link helps us and helps support the show. So if you want to buy a blush, go onto our list on Macy's.com/Heal Squad. It really does help us. I have a really good one by Anastasia on there, by the way, that I just bought myself again because I had run out. And there's so many more things. So definitely check it out. Of course, you can also check out our merch on mariamenounos.com, or you can just do healsquad.com. It will take you to the same place, and you can get yourself a mug or a hat or something to keep you on this health journey and let you know you're a part of a squad, and that is the Heal Squad. Let's get into this chat with John Amaral. So he's an energy practitioner, author, educator, and founder of the Energy Flow Formula, a somatic energy healing practice. He was originally trained as a chiropractor. Then he developed the formula over 25 years of working with thousands of people with, from all kinds of countries. I think more than 50 countries, actually. His clients include A-list celebrities, entrepreneurs, athletes, influencers, and thought leaders. And John uses the unique principles of the Energy Flow Formula to help his clients heal physical injuries, reduce stress, anxiety, depression, and reach and sustain new levels of energy, clarity, and fulfillment so they can live and feel better. I've firsthand seen his gifts at play, whether it's at friends' homes who are really, really suffering from different ailments, and then the next, hour later, they're laughing and dancing and moving. My mom, we've had profound experiences with just a little bit of energy work. And she went from not being able to walk and barely being able to move to dancing. So energy is real, guys, and you're going to learn all about it in this conversation. So without further ado, here's my chat with John. John, thanks for coming in.
Oh, always great to see you, Maria.
Obviously, we have worked together and we've been friends for a really long time. And you've been on the show before, but I feel like energy work and energy healing is something that I still am trying to fully understand. And I've immersed myself in this world to a degree. Mm-hmm. So for our viewers and our listeners, I want to really break down what it is you do mm-hmm. and what the effect is on the mind and body. And yeah, like in kindergarten speak, mm-hmm. because this is it can get very heady and very kind of ethereal and hard to grab onto because it's just kind of everywhere.
I think, and this is what we were talking about before we came on, is, when you talk about healing with energy or working with energy, it's really just, it's a kind of catch-all for so many things. It's like, what are you doing? Are you working with guide spirits? Are you working with entities? Are you working with, what does it even mean?
Yeah, you're working with chakras.
Yeah, you're working with chakras. Are you what is, so let's start think kindergarten level. What does it even mean to work with energy?
Yeah.
So
what is it like?
What is it like? I think
I'll be sitting here drinking my matcha. So you tell us.
I think just to start just really, really simply with, even what does it mean to work with energy, and what is energy work? you really have to look at like even what energy is, which I mean, physicists just say it's the ability to do work. That's what the definition of energy. So
The ability to do work
yeah.
is the definition.
So if something has a lot of energy, it can actually accomplish a lot of work. So, you know, if somebody has a little bit of energy, it can't do that much work. That like in just sort of physics, whether it's a chemical reaction or whether it's a concrete block sitting up high on a cliff, and it has more potential energy when it's sitting up high than it has on the ground, because it could fall, and in that falling, it could actually, it actually releases energy when it hits the ground. So there's like,
wow.
So energy it's really, it's this intangible, invisible thing, but it's involved in every single thing that happens. So if you run and you exercise and you work out, you're going to burn energy. You're going to burn calories. That's just another, calories are units of energy. And you're going to burn fuel, which is food you put in your body, which has calories. You're going to create energy in your body, and then you're going to dissipate or release energy through sweat and through heat. If you burn a piece of wood, you're going to break the chemical bonds by heating it up, and then energy is released. You feel the heat, but then the wood breaks down and turns into ash. So everything's just these exchanges of energy. Like, we have to put food into our body, and we have to hydrate ourselves, and we have to do certain things to have enough energy to live. You can only go so long, right? So energy is actually quite a kind of tangible thing in that way. You can see its effects in the world with everything. But what I think confuses or just is like uncertain or just new territory for people is that there's something happening in the thing that you can't see that is real. But we could just let's use the example of Wi-Fi. For example, everyone knows Wi-Fi. We all have our phones, and we're all connecting to Wi-Fi. Well, what is Wi-Fi? It's waves of energy that are transmitted through the air, the space around us, and then on those waves of energy, information is carried, and then we have an antenna in our phone that receives those waves of energy, and then it translates it into a information that we can read by looking at the screen or display in our phone. So invisible energy is floating around, moving through the air, and we're picking it up with a receiver and antenna, and then we're making that useful to us. So the body has energy around it as a field. It's called a field, which is the field of energy that radiates out beyond your body. And that field of energy is measurable with some instruments, a few feet off the body at least.
What do you mean?
I mean,
that energy is miserable if it feeds
not
off.
not measurable. So hopefully it's not miserable.
Wait, which one is it?
It's measurable.
Measurable. I'm like, whoa.
That energy around you is miserable.
I was like, wow, that's really.
No, it's miserable. So you can use instruments to register that, hey, there's something happening that registers out off the body.
So there are instruments that you can use around you to kind of feel how much energy is near you? Yeah,
there's pretty sophisticated. It's called a magnometer, and they can measure the electromagnetic field of the heart, for example, like a few feet off the body. And you can tell that there's something that's radiating out beyond the body. But we have the ultimate instrument of the human nervous system to pick up very subtle information that even instruments can't yet measure. And I think this is where the realm of feeling things, sensing things, working with quote unquote energy, it's something that you can experience through your system that registers in your five senses in different ways for different people. And this is why it's one of the challenging things to explain and to teach in a lot of ways, because everybody registers that in different ways. There are similarities, but some people have they have visions. They have a visual thing that shows up when they're engaging with someone. They get vision. I know that you do. You see things. Right? We've talked about it. Some people, they hear sounds, but they might not hear it through their ears. There's a technical word called synesthesia, which is you can taste a sound. You can hear something that you see, you can smell.
I feel like you can feel the sound.
Yeah.
That's how I,
Yeah.
like when I have conversations with my mom, I'm not hearing anything out loud, but I hear, but it's a feeling. And I don't know, it's so hard to explain.
So it's like, yeah, it's not really, it's coming into your five senses because that's how we register things in the physical world, but it's not coming through that particular apparatus. So that's why, like, you can have sort of an inner vision of something that didn't really come through your eyes, but it activated the visual cortex of the brain.
So
You
cool.
can hear sounds that aren't like actually sounds coming through your ears. Some people might hear angelic tones, or they hear chimes, or they hear sort of something, but it's not like actually coming through their ears. It's just registering in their five senses as that.
Yeah, it's like when you're meditating and you see things, your eyes are closed. So how are you seeing things?
Exactly.
But you're seeing things.
Exactly. So there's activation of your sensory system in your brain in different ways as you're picking up what's happening in this field, or this sort of invisible waves of energy and information that are around you, and you're translating that into some kind of experience and meaning. So the fields are real. There is actually energy in the space around you. Matter of fact, everything is, at the subatomic level, everything is vibrating, and it's all kind of a frothing sea of energy all around us.
Which is why when we're in the country, or like, for example, when I'm in Connecticut, I feel so at peace because I'm in the woods. And there isn't a lot of that pulsating energy. But if you're in the middle of, New York City, you're feeling that. And people are like, I love the energy of New York because they've got like all this energy. But, it's synthetic energy. It's not created because you ate spinach and you feel good.
Yeah.
It's because of all the lights. And I am remembering now, after I had brain surgery, and because my mom and all of us, and even our dogs, got brain tumors, I had someone come with one of those tools to test the house.
Yeah.
Because I was like, what if
Like
something's...
the EMF energies in the house.
Yeah, because I wanted to make sure there wasn't something we were missing that was creating this. And by the way, like you said, there's stuff that's immeasurable
Yeah.
that could be going on, who knows, that we're just sensitive to, right? Is that possible that certain people are susceptible to different energies, and then that creates, physical things? I don't know.
For sure. I mean, there are a lot of things that we didn't have the tools to measure in the past that we realized, oh, these are carcinogens, or, oh, these are actually harmful, that we were getting exposed to, that we just didn't have ways to, register, oh, this is doing X, Y, or Z. So we're really in a new territory we're coming into, where there are treatment modalities already available, like in the medical profession. Like, for example, there's a helmet for treatment of certain kind of brain cancer that has it goes around your head. It doesn't actually touch your head. There's no electrodes on your head, but it's generating a field, energy field that actually is penetrating through the scalp, and it's influencing the ability of those cells to grow, so it can actually stop the growth of certain cancers. And we're getting into this kind of field-based energy, which is we're starting to see now, oh yes, there is a physical effect when you expose the body to these particular frequencies or these particular waves. So
It's so scary because even when you were describing Wi-Fi, obviously we know Wi-Fi is invisible energy if we're really thinking about it.
Yeah.
But we're not. And we're like, give us the 5G, give us the 6G, give us the 80G. And we're just like, but we don't realize it. And it's just so wild to think about how great technology is, but then the double-edged sword of it all.
Yeah.
And the double-edged sword of everything, I feel like, in life. I mean, I don't want to get down like a rabbit hole, but, there's so many things that are great that also are just not great for us.
And it's getting interesting because there's a new tech coming out where, on a display like your phone or a TV, it's a LCD kind of screen. It's little pixels or what are firing off. That's how we see movement and pictures and stuff. There's little red, green, and blue pixels. I think those are the three colors that go on and off and create all of what we see.
Is that the EES system?
Well, I don't know what the EES system is.
I think it was EES that I did
Oh,
recently.
yeah. Okay, so that
That's a whole other one,
Yeah,
but
you
it's
might-
like those screens and they're just doing all these
Yes.
squiggly things and they're supposed to be super healing.
Yeah, so there are frequencies that they're generating that are having healing effects. With this particular technology that's already here, it's patented and it's coming out soon. We'll start to see it in like sports arenas, et cetera, where the screen that you'll look at, instead of doing just like a few colors, each pixel can have millions of colors, millions of wavelengths. And on those wavelengths are different wavelengths of light. They carry different information. And then based on people's iris scan, so biometric scan, like you do if you go into the airport and use Clear or something, like you look into it, scans your eyeball. Based on everyone's unique eye scan, it can direct a different whole screen to your eyes, even though you're looking at the same screen. So this is like here, it exists.
What do you mean?
I mean,
So
you and I
I'll
sitting-
see a
yes.
dolphin and you'll see a whale?
Exactly.
And what's the point of that?
Because it can be customized for your particular viewing enjoyment or advertising or whatever.
Oh my
But
God,
it's
they're
like,
going to customize the shit out of us.
so
This is
But I
scary.
think I brought this up because we're talking about energy, and we're talking about, and energy and information are really they're linked together. When you feel vibes, when you get a sense of something, when you experience the energy of a space or energy of a person, you're not just getting kind of waves of energy, you're getting information about them that your sensory system's picking up. And so what's interesting is that we're moving into a time with technology where the information coming into your eyes can be customized so that your nervous system, your brain, and your iris picks up only a certain bandwidth of it that's directed specifically to you. So we're getting into this interesting, and this is without like a screen or without special glasses. This is literally into your eyeballs, and we're next to each other and we're seeing completely different things.
Very creepy.
So it's like, what is reality?
Think about the fights that we're going to have. Remember that blue dress? Is it blue or is it black or whatever? And then it's like, no, it's freaking blue and you're fighting.
Yes.
This is going to be a
Yes.
whole other
No,
level.
it's super disruptive to like what is real. And we're seeing that with deep fakes. We're seeing that with all the
Yes.
chat GPT stuff. It's like, what is reality? What is, and so anyway, I feel like because we're in that place in humanity right now, there is an interest in people saying, well, obviously something's going on. Everything is not maybe the way that we were taught it was. And maybe there's something here that I want to investigate because I feel stuff. I sense things. I mean, if you talk to anybody about, kind of, especially people that are quite successful at what they're doing, you kind of pull back this curtain and you go like, well, what's really going on? How did you really know to do X, Y, or Z? How did you know to invent this particular product? How did you, get to where you are? And it's not surprising anymore to me, but it's always like, oh, I totally had a vision or a download. Oh, my guides told me, oh, I was shown this in a reading of some kind, or, oh, I just, I was in meditation and this vision came to me. That's the kind of stuff that actually is what's happening in everyone. So we have all this information and all this energy around us, in the field around us, in the culture. There's a energy field of each culture, energy field of each family, energy field of each person. Like if you go to Italy or you go to Greece or you go to, another country, you recognize, wow, there's a different vibe. It's not just the food is different, the people are different. There's a different energy, and you can oftentimes you can know, oh, this person's from Europe or this person's from wherever, by just a certain feeling. Especially if you've been to that country. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
You go like, oh, it isn't just their fashion. It's like mannerisms. It's something beyond just something happening in the physical world. It's some kind of energy, and that's the field. There are scientists like Rupert Sheldrake who talk about it being what he calls a morphic field, which is like this kind of field of energy and field of information that surrounds things, that's part of things, that influences what others experience and what people in that particular culture will be able to do or not do, be able to express or not express.
And how new cycles probably come.
Yeah.
Like I love that monkey story you've
Yeah.
told me. You share it with everybody,
So, like-
because I think that this is also what's happening with kids. Like my dad last night went to a friend's house, and they have this precocious little 4, almost 5-year-old. He's like, Maria, you gotta see this little girl. She's talking in the back of the car like she's 30 years old. I just can't believe that this went on. And da-da-da-da-da. And he goes, and she's 4. And I said, yeah, Dad, that's what all kids are like now. They are 30 or 40-year-old kids, adults in little kid bodies. And we're all like super shocked and like think it's the cutest thing. But something has shifted and kids are so far ahead, probably because of technology and those waves. It's different. They're not, they're not like maybe we were when we were little and that didn't exist. So this monkey story is kind of funny.
So
I like this.
it has to do, with like just progress and how a theory of how things actually evolve and how why, like, for example, kids can just pick up a phone and know what to do at like 4 or 5 years old, and they're just like,
and they've never used it.
Exactly. I've seen Instagram things of little kids, doing whole, using software to create whole musical compositions and like playing the piano and playing all these instruments, and they're like 10 years old and they're doing stuff that is like beyond extraordinary. How are they doing this, right? So I grew up surfing, and nobody had ever like gone on a surfboard out of the wave into the air and landed back into a wave when my whole like youth growing up surfing. And now once someone did it, kind of like Roger Bannister, who broke the 4-minute mile record, right after he did it, like all these people did it the next year. Never had been done in history, and all of a sudden like 10 people did it.
Is it because we now know what's possible, or is it energy?
I think it's a combination. It's like we all know it's possible, but then there's also something that
shifts.
Yeah, it shifts. It's like, and this goes to the 100th monkey thing. So back to the surfing thing, it's like now all these little kids are like flying out of the air and out of the waves and spinning around and landing in there, doing things that you spent a decade surfing trying to like master at one time, even make it, not master it, even just do it, and they haven't mastered it, right from the get-go. But this 100-month monkey theory is, or parable or example, is that there were biologists that were observing monkeys on this island off of Japan, and they were washing these sweet potatoes that they were giving them with the ocean water. They were taking them down and they were starting to wash them, and they realized that they could like not only wash off the sand, but it tasted good, right? So so one of them did it, and then the whole troop started doing it. Like they started copying each other, and then pretty soon the whole troop of monkeys started doing it. It was a behavior that had never been seen. So it was a new kind of emergent thing that happened. And then when it got to a certain point, and so whether it was exactly 100, but the idea is that at a certain point, a tipping point, on neighboring islands where they were also observing these monkeys, they started exhibiting that behavior without having any connection with the monkeys on that other island. So somehow so the theory is that something happened in the field collectively of energy that bumped that up to where it made it available as something almost like Wi-Fi that everyone could tune into, all these other monkeys could tune into, and it was there. It was available to them, like, oh, that idea, it didn't just exist in your head somewhere, it existed out, beyond, somehow in a field that you could just kind of reach up like Wi-Fi and tune into it with an antenna, which is your nervous system and energy system. So the idea is that things spread not by just direct connection between physical, but through fields of energy and information.
So I think the key is understanding energy, but also believing it, right? Like,
Right.
We have to trust, and we call it our instincts, we call it our intuition, we call all these things. But we have to start believing. Like, I'm very sensitive. I know when people are unhappy. I know when they are checked out. I know when they're angry. I know what's going on around me. I feel it. I know when I can feel bad things are going to come. Like, I can feel these things. I've learned to trust a lot more. And I think that serves me, but I don't think it's an easy thing for people to get to. Right? Because we had a mystic on the show, Deirdre Hade. She's amazing. And one of the things she said that just stuck with me was, you're not crazy, you're wise. And it was a really powerful statement because it was that moment that I really started shifting into, why do I have to start everything with, I know you're going to think I'm crazy, but I think, or I feel. And so now I'm always like, no, this is what I feel, and I trust it and I believe in it. How do we get to that place where we believe we're sensing?
That's a great question, and I love what you brought up there, because in my experience of working with people, and I've been working with people now almost 30 years at a practice where hundreds of people a week that would come in, and I saw just thousands and thousands of people over decades. So I've seen a lot, and I've seen a lot of people going through every kind of condition, every kind of health condition. I started out as a chiropractor, so that was my original practice. And then I was, evolving and working more energetically as I went. But what I saw across the board with people was that intuition and that knowing and that sense of, this feeling, I need to do this, or I need to do that, I need to change this, that calling somehow that kind of taps you. It's like, this, that if you listen to that, that is the key. If you ignore that or override that or avoid that, or you're just disconnected from that through your conditioning and through your culture and through your family, and just like you've lost trust in that because you were told, when you were feeling something like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, and you started to just dampen that in yourself, then it sets you up for a lot of challenges. And the more you listen to that, the more you'll make healthy choices that match what you need. So it is the critical area. But how do you develop it? It truly is not yes, it's something that can be developed, absolutely, and there are skills that you can work with, but it really is something that it just is. And you almost are stripping away the development of the skills, in a way, are like stripping away the conditioning that returns you to this place of, oh yeah, I already knew this. Yeah, this totally makes sense. So it's like clearing away all of the gunk.
That's why I like what Deirdre said, because it was clearing away the conditioning, the gaslighting, the people telling me I was crazy, or all of that. So it's so helpful to be able to peel those layers off. So then you're left with you, and you're like, I have a knowing. And by the way, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'd rather be wrong on me than by believing and trusting everybody else.
Yeah, so. I think you are probably familiar with Gavin DeBecker. Do you know who that was? It's secure. He's like, I think Oprah had him on a number of times. Years. This is back like maybe decades ago even. But he wrote a book. I think it was called The Gift of Fear. But it was about that trust and knowing when people had whatever they were attacked, or they had different situations that involved their life-threatening things, security, where they knew somehow, and there was a little spidey senses that went off, and it was the people that listened to that it was all about how that saved them. And you always know, you always feel and sense, doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
But how does that show up for you? Some people see a picture of it. Some people, it's a feeling in their body, kinesthetically. We call it kinesthetic. You feel it. Some people, it's like a little, like a little chime or something that goes off, and it's sort of like a sound for them. Some people, they smell or they taste something. They're like, ew, this is disgusting. It's like not really through their tongue, but it's like a feeling in their body, or a taste almost in their body. And it's like, doesn't feel right. So that is something that everybody has instinctually. It's that's part of being human. You have that. It's rediscovering it for some people. It's amplifying it for some people to really be able to make it louder, turn up the volume on it. Some people, it's so loud that it's like you kind of need to turn down the volume on it a little bit. But listening to and responding to what shows up in your being in your body is critical. And so working with energy and starting to understand how energy affects us are kind of two sides of the same coin. It's like you have to start to understand how you process and feel and experience it, and then that allows you to start to engage with it more in the world out here.
Yeah, I think it's so important for us to really kind of honor what we're being sent message wise, because whether it's a relationship or health, right? There's so many stories you hear of like, I knew there was something wrong. They kept telling me, this woman I know, she went to 5 different doctors. She had something, she thought she had something in her breast. Nope, you're fine. Nope, you're fine. Nope, you're fine. The 5th doctor, you have breast cancer. Luckily, still at stage 1. But I was like, God bless you. You kept going. I probably would have quit after the 3rd person. I'd be like, oh, 3 people said I'm good. And I probably would have quit.
Yeah. And
that's me, and this is what I do every day.
Right. And some people, and imagine when you're being told something that conflicts with something that you really sense and know to be true for you, and you're being told that by someone who's supposedly an expert or is known as an expert in their field, it's kind of daunting, right? And this is where a lot of people just sort of succumb to that diagnosis. They say you have this, and it's like, oh, I guess I have this, but something tells me. Or you don't, you're clear, you're fine. And they're like, something tells me that something's off. It's critical that you get another opinion. And if someone says, well, this is the way this has to be treated, and you're like, it doesn't feel right to me, then you get another opinion.
Yeah.
And then if everyone's opinions are the same, then you go, okay, this still doesn't feel right. Then you go, okay, let me go outside of this field and look at some other things. But like gather information.
That's the thing.
Right?
You got to go outside the field sometimes, right?
And sometimes people though
get to a naturopath, get to a functional medicine doctor who's going to look at it in a different way. Yeah. Whenever I have something, I literally tell everybody in my life, what do you think this could be? What do you think is happening? And I try. And by the way, sometimes I don't get answers, and then I have to keep trying.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes you want it to be something that is like someone's going through a condition. I've had people that were, going through, cancering, or whatever it was that they were going through. There was a significant condition that they were having, and they wanted to do an alternative route. They wanted to do, through just diet, through just working with alternative practitioners, and maybe they were at a super advanced stage where they really needed medical treatment, and so it's being open to whatever treatments are going to be the most effective. Sometimes you have to buy time so that you can heal. Sometimes you have to do a life-saving thing so that you can heal up. And sometimes that's not the path. You need to do something that's more alternative and not do the biomedical route. And sometimes it's a combination of both. So but you're the only one that actually can know that, and that to know that you have to be connected enough to yourself and to be feeling what's going on and starting to develop a self-awareness and energetic awareness to where you can actually make the decision from an informed and a connected place versus a conceptual place. The people that get into trouble are the people that in their mind, they think, oh, I need to do this, but they're not really connected. It's more of just a...
How do you know if you're not connected?
This is also the challenge, because a lot of times when you're not connected, you don't know, because you don't have a reference for what it feels like to be connected. But what it feels like to be connected is a sense of presence, centeredness. You can feel the sensations within your body feeding back to you, and you can interact with them. You can, you sense that you know yourself, you feel yourself at your core, and you feel connected to something, beyond yourself as well. Like typically when you're connected, you feel grounded, you feel part of the world around you, if you go walk in, I think a great way to check to see how connected or disconnected you are is to go out into it. Like you said, when you go into the forest, right? You go into nature, you go into a national park, go out to the beach or something, and just look around you, put your phone away, feel the earth beneath your feet, look out, see the clouds, see the sky, see the natural world around you, and just feel like, do I feel one with this and part of this, or does it feel like I'm completely like
going through the motions?
Yeah, going through the motions. I think going through the motions is disconnected. If you're suffering and you feel everything is just totally challenging and it's hard, and it feels overwhelming, and it feels like you have almost no will to live, you're disconnected. Because if you're connected, you want to be alive.
Ooh, that's a great way to explain it.
If you're connected, you feel at home, and you belong. You belong here. Because we do. I mean, you didn't incarnate and come into this body for no reason. You're here for a reason. So connection brings with it a feeling of, I belong and I'm here, and you want to be here. So if you're feeling disconnected, that anyone who could do some of the things that we're seeing in the culture, like these gun violence and all these horrific things, that doesn't come from a place of connection. That comes from a place of total disconnection. Mm-hmm. When you're connected, you won't harm another person. You won't harm anything. You'll see an ant or a bee and you're just like, oh, it's beautiful. When you're connected, you feel part of, not separate from.
So before you talked about the murderers, I was going to say, I feel like I can go in and out, right?
We absolutely all do.
So, but I'm like, I don't want you to think I'm a murderer.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask Kelsey, but then it was just such a weird moment. I'm like, okay, now we're going into murderer territory. Right. What do you feel when you hear him talk about disconnect and connect? Do you feel like you understand the difference, and do you feel like if you're connected or disconnected? I'm curious.
Yeah, I think honestly, you saying I know when I go for my walks at night and I see a flower and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. You describing it that way clicked for me, because that is who I am. But I definitely know when I'm disconnected by the way you described it as well. So yeah, I think that absolutely clicked. And I guess what I would want to know, John, is if you are aware enough to be like, hey, you know what, I'm disconnected right now. How, besides if maybe we don't have a chance to get in nature, what are some other ways to get connected?
That's a great question. I
always do this.
Yeah.
I lay down and I just put my hand on my heart and my other hand on my stomach, and I just feel everything. Is that good?
It is. And I actually created something that people can access that is on my website, which is just johnamaral.com, which is a series of exercises that they can do just to help bring more presence and connection to the body and start to feel and bring you present, so people can go use that as a resource. I didn't know. So just here's part of the challenge of how do you know if you're connected or disconnected is,
I guess it's resonance and dissonance, right?
It is resonance and dissonance. And
if feeling great, you're connected. If you're not feeling great, I call it out of alignment.
Yeah, there can be.
Right?
Yeah, there can be. Someone can be disconnected. When you're totally disconnected, it's like you feel out of touch with space, time, the world. You feel kind of lost, and
you probably feel numb too.
You feel numb. And the thing is, if you're numb, you oftentimes don't know that. That's the challenge. It's someone can be numb in either a part of their body, just in a region, let's say post-surgery, and they had anesthesia, and then the brain and body didn't coordinate and reconnect up and find the feelings and feedback and information in that area, and it's sort of just kind of locked away. So sometimes I'm working with people, and that it's they connect and they didn't even realize, they go, oh my God, I didn't even know I was disconnected from that part of me. I had no idea that I wasn't feeling that. It's the anesthesia is still going on, that we're creating a self anesthesia of certain parts of our bodies at times. So sometimes the only way to begin to recognize that you're disconnected, let's say from a part of your body, would be to start to touch your body and start to put attention and notice, do I feel present here? Do I feel connected to this part? And connected could be, I can breathe there easily. Oh, I feel the movement there, and I feel one with my body here. Or I touch this part of my body and it feels very distant. Somehow it almost feels like I might as well be touching a piece of metal or a piece of plastic or something. If you put your hand on a part of your body and it feels very foreign to you, that's typically disconnection.
Yeah, I feel like it would be easy to disconnect from something that hurts. So you probably see a lot of that where it's if someone has back pain, or if someone has, let's say, gut issues or some other issue, they can disconnect from that area because they're afraid of hurting it. or it being hurt. And so that kind of creates the disconnection, right?
Yeah, and bringing it back to energy, one of the things that happens when you are overwhelmed or stressed or there's an accident, injury, or some kind of trauma is that you do go into reaction. You have a burst of cortisol and adrenaline, and you go into this kind of reactive, protective, fight flight kind of experience. In that process, your body mobilizes itself for running away or for freezing or for fighting, and so you build up tension in your muscles and your tendons, your nervous system, your fascia and soft tissues. It can be in the organs, it can be in the region where something happened, or it can be overall in your whole body. And that is a real mobilization of energy. It's like you've built up all this energy to use to fight this off or to protect yourself. And then, like, we see in the wild with animals, after they, the gazelle runs from the lion, if it escapes, then a lot of times you'll see them like shaking.
Yeah. Well, that's
Right.
how we are after like a car accident or whatever.
Because your body's discharging that energy. It's dissipating, discharging, trying to, like, it's you can't just sit there with all that energy built up. It needs to move. But sometimes it doesn't. We don't shake. We don't emote. We don't express. So there's no expression of that energy. So a lot of times people have an intense, like, near miss accident, or they have a fight with someone, or they have some kind of abusive situation, and then they just like burst into tears. There's just this big expression of emotion. And others are more stoic, and they just like kind of hold it all in. And sometimes that's because you're numbing out. And by holding it in, it's like you're reducing that expression so that energy isn't flowing, and the information that's in it doesn't get to like be integrated and discharged. So you can have all this energy built up in your body from things that happened many, many years ago. It could happen in childhood. It can happen during the process of birth. It could happen at different events and periods in your life. And you can have all this energy built up in your body. And that becomes like your normal state to you, but you could be walking around in a very highly vigilant sort of fight or flight mode, all braced from something that actually happened in the past. And that can be, and with that comes a kind of a binding up of energy that reduces the movement, reduces the expression, and then it keeps some of that information from being felt or experienced. And so that's a type of disconnection that can happen. And so a lot of times when people start to connect, which they start going, oh, I feel and experience that there's energy held in these different places. It's surprising to them because they didn't really have a reference for something else. They maybe didn't have an experience of being at peace or at ease or in flow. And so you have to start with finding where can I actually kind of hold myself or touch my body or be with myself in a way that actually eases things up first, so I can actually at least know what that feels like.
Yeah. I wonder if you're numb and you don't know you're numb. Would an indicator be, because I was just thinking, what could an indicator be, is if you're reaching for things to boost you up, whether it's alcohol, substances, because you're so here, you need to come up here.
Yeah.
Is that an indicator maybe, so that people can figure out whether they're disconnected?
Yeah, I think anytime that you go, to an addictive behavior, there's something that's coming up that you're avoiding or redirecting, and you have to just look and go, you have to identify like what is coming up. What is it that I'm feeling or experiencing that I would rather just numb out? And it could be, it could be some fight you're having with a family member or your partner. It could be a feeling of deep self-loathing or self-worth or something that's there, and you're just like, I'd rather feel nothing than feel this, or I'd rather feel some experience that takes me into an altered state rather than feel this. And there's an avoidance. And so a lot of disconnection happens. It's avoidant. It's like, I can't be with this, so I need to not feel it. And that can be stored in different regions of the body, and that can be also in the field too, around you. Like, you can disconnect from the energy all around you. You can disconnect from humanity, from the earth. You can disconnect from family members. So it isn't just inside your body, but it's also when things feel like they're just beyond our ability to handle them, we want to typically go, okay, I want to go feel this instead, or I want to feel nothing. And so we're also so overstimulated because we have all of this stuff hitting our sensory system from every angle.
Yeah.
And so there's a kind of a disconnection happening where people are so overstimulated that everything just sort of flattens out and it becomes like you almost just numb out because there's just so much.
Oh, I know. I feel like I haven't been able to sleep well lately because I've been so on my phone in a way I haven't in a long time. And I was like so tired yesterday. I just kept trying to lay down. Nothing would work. I was like, okay. And I know what it is.
Yeah.
I know it's because I'm getting so much stimulation from this device. Do you try to figure out how to lessen your Wi-Fi situation? Like, what do you do to, because you're sensitive to energy, this is what you do.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I mean, I do have to set, boundaries for myself with like phone use, with computer use, with engagement with others, because I am working with a lot of people. I'm teaching, I'm traveling, so I have to schedule and create that. This morning before I came here, I was up. I was laying on my biomat. If anyone knows what that is, it's like, so I'm like, it's heat, and I'm letting that penetrate through my body, and I'm doing some movement and some kind of mobility stretching, and I'm touching different parts of my body. I'm feeling where I'm holding tension, and I'm, kind of breathing, and I'm moaning and moving and just letting myself like get engaged and present with what's going on in my body. And then I did a couple other practices. I used a few biohacking tools. I took my supplements. This is all, like this is, and I'll do a little workout later. There are all these things that I'm doing. I'm not doing them because, these are the right things to do. I'm not necessarily doing them every single day in the same order. I'm very tuned into my body, and I know that I need to create and carve out like the time and space for me to make that a priority. Working with energy. So I think coming back, because we wanted to keep this like kindergarten 101, and it's like we're going in different directions, because in a lot of ways, just like if you're going to learn how to, play the piano, you're gonna have to do like scales, and you're gonna have to learn the keys and where they are, and you're gonna learn like some basics before you can really start to play some songs. You're gonna have to really like break it down to the super basics. Working with energy and having energy be a really kind of at the forefront of how we're living our lives it's a life practice. It's like it's something that you would just develop and keep getting better and better and better at. But it does start with self-awareness, recognizing like what's the difference between connection and disconnection, and there are nuances to that. We've talked about a little bit, like how you hold things in your body, recognizing am I present, am I not present, am I present with the world around me, etc. So like just that you have to start with like some self-awareness and recognize what's really going on with me. What am I really feeling? Where am I? Where do I want to be? What's happening sort of in my life right now? And am I in sync with where I want to be, or am I out of sync? Am I running around? Am I overly stretched? And you can't even ask those questions if you don't take the time and create the opportunity to check in and make that a practice.
Yeah,
So,
if you're waking up and you're just running all day and all night, you're not giving any space. You have to have that kind of quiet time. I do something that has helped me at night when I'm laying in bed. Because I know that when I do my meditations, Dr. Joe will say, relax your body or whatever. I tell myself that now, and I'll say, can I melt into this bed? And then I let myself melt, and I realize how much I was holding tension.
yes.
I was actually like, physically shoulders were up and things were tight. And I was like, wow, there was so much tension I just released just by telling myself.
And that right there was connecting. I mean, you're connecting because you're recognizing, wow, I'm holding tension, which now you're observing in it, you're observing yourself and going, oh, I'm watching myself holding this tension. So I now have a reference that there's another possibility. I could take a breath and let it drop. And so there's connection and just that type of awareness for sure. Just stopping and becoming aware.
Yeah.
And you could say, well, becoming aware of what? How are you holding your body? How are you breathing?
How do you feel?
How do you feel?
When I sit with somebody, especially like if I'm interviewing them
Yeah.
for a job or if I'm, getting to know someone new, I'll literally sit and ask myself, how do I feel with this person right now? And I'm like, oh, I feel really good. I did it again this morning. I'm like, God,
Yeah.
I always feel so good when he's here. I just feel so calm. And that's what you want, right? I mean, you can feel excited, you can feel all that stuff, but if you're squeezing and you're tight, like there's something not right for you. Doesn't mean that person's horrible or whatever, maybe, but it's just not a right energy match.
Yeah. And I love that you brought that up because in my experience, in my 5 decades, I guess, on this planet here, like what I've been doing, what I've found connection for me is like, again, peeling away, like we were talking about earlier, peeling away the what's not me, right? And having to perform, having to be someone for other people, doing the things that I feel like I should do in order for people to respond a certain way. Like earlier in my life and career, it was like I was wanting to be someone. I was wanting to like build, and that's healthy. It's your ego. You want to feel significant. You want to feel enough. You want to be successful at what you're doing, and you're really looking at outside yourself and going like, how are people responding to what I'm doing? How are people, perceiving this? But like at a certain point, that's something that, of course, we want to be aware of, especially if you're sort of public facing and whatever you're teaching or you're doing something where you want to know how are people receiving this. But if that becomes it can become a trap because
now you're something else all the time.
If you're editing yourself so that you'll be accepted or loved or appreciated by other people, which is, again, this is the social media movement that so many kids have grown up with. You're not really connecting. You're not really being necessarily you because you're trying to sort of orient and perform for others. And so as you get more connected, it's not that you care less, but you care less, about how other people are perceiving you. And you can start to be authentically delivering something that is really you and your style.
I love that. I'm so glad you just said that the editing yourself, because another thing that I've started paying attention to is if I'm with certain people and I act out of character, when you go home, you're like, why did I say that? Ugh, I wish I didn't do that. Like, and you're just annoyed at yourself for behaving a certain way. Then you kind of have to sit back and say, well, why did I feel like I had to be like that?
Yes.
And what was it about that group or that person or that situation that made me feel like I had to act differently? And I'm paying attention to those things now too, because I don't want to feel like that. And I don't want to do that. So then that means maybe those aren't my people or maybe those aren't my situations.
Yeah.
And then maybe even testing, going back into those situations and really just being you and seeing what happens. See if they shift, see if there's so many cool experiments you can do.
100%. And going back to what we were talking about in the very beginning about like energy, it's a field. There's information that we're picking up and it's translated into our 5 senses. When you're in those environments, when you're around people and you're like, oh, I feel uncomfortable. Oh, I don't feel any peace at all. I don't feel ease here. I don't feel like I can be myself or I'm projecting that I have to be a certain way. And so you can, I'm projecting that I have to be a certain way. So I'm being a certain way, but actually those people aren't even expecting me to be a certain way, but I have. So sometimes you're like actually generating that yourself and projecting it out. Sometimes there is a lot of judgment and a lot of pressure and stuff. And you're just like, well, I don't really want to be around this environment. These aren't like my peeps. And sometimes maybe they are, but you're just generating that, in your own consciousness. But again, connection is about getting really tuned in, right, to this sense of is this for am I doing this for a reason other than something that I feel genuine and authentically coming through me? And do I have to be someone other than I am in this environment? And if you do, then it's like, okay, you're probably disconnected in some way to do it. But just the fact that you're asking that question means you're more self-aware, which is you're starting to connect. And if you start asking those questions to yourself, and like you're doing, you're stopping, you're checking in, I was holding so much tension. Oh, I realized that I went to this place why did I do that? Why did I say that? That already is lifting you up to a higher consciousness and a higher energy. And that will let you evaluate and assess. And then you can more consciously choose. And when you're more consciously choosing, that's a higher energy that you are not only running off of, but you're also transmitting out to the world, right? Because the more authentic you are, the more connected you are, the more whole you are, the more at ease you are in yourself, and the more at peace you are, the more that radiates out, and the more people respond to that.
I love it. Well, John, thank you for a really cool conversation today. I love our chats always. Usually they're in my kitchen.
Yeah, I know, seriously.
Over some good Greek food. My dad does have more food in the kitchen. If you guys want to know any more about John, you can go to johnamaral.com. We'll put that in the summary of this episode. I'm going to wrap this up here. In the meantime, be nice people, make good choices, and be present.
This podcast and all related content published or distributed by or on behalf of Maria Menounos or mariamenounos.com is for informational purposes only and may include information that is general in nature and that is not specific to you. Any information or opinions expressed or contained herein are not intended to serve as or replace medical advice, nor to diagnose, prescribe, or treat any disease, condition, illness, or injury, and you should consult the healthcare professional of your choice regarding all matters concerning your health, including before beginning any exercise, weight loss, or healthcare program. If you have or suspect you may have a healthcare emergency, please contact a qualified healthcare professional for treatment. Any information or opinions provided by a guest expert or host featured within website or on company's podcast are their own, not those of Maria Menounos or the company. Accordingly, Maria Menounos and the company cannot be responsible for any results or consequences or actions you may take based on information or opinions.